the beginning of the first one, this video or this lesson will have two videos, and I was cut off right at the Treaty of Ghent, and just talking about how oftentimes in a war, a treaty will be the way that it is ended. And so neither side really won the War of 1812, but the Treaty of Ghent ended the war. And in your book on page 255, and then also on this slide, you can see this map that is showing where some battles took place. And it's interesting because a lot of the battles actually took place in Canada, in the Atlantic Ocean, or west of the Appalachian Mountains. And the red line is what I want to focus on, which, if you look, it says Tecumseh's route. And so Tecumseh, hopefully you remember learning about him last year in fourth grade in Indiana history. And so I've got on the right side, there's a picture here of Tecumseh. Nobody really knows what he looks like. You can read that. This is a sketch. And actually, the person who made this thought that he was part of the British Army, which is why he painted him in a red coat. And so, and obviously, we know that was not correct. But on the left side, there's some information here in a book that I have. It is called Hoosiers and the American Story, and it's just it's like a U.S. or like an Indiana State history book. And so there's some really good information about Tecumseh and his brother. You might have remembered learning about the Prophet last year in Prophetstown. But William Henry Harrison, who was the governor of Indiana Territory, he and Tecumseh had a pretty interesting relationship. They got along, even though they didn't agree on things. But you can read that and just kind of see how they were able to have a decent relationship, even though Harrison obviously wanted all Native Americans off of their land. But you can see here, Tecumseh was a warrior. And so on the map, he traveled all over trying to get different tribes just to work together to fight against the United States. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that in here. All right, so national pride. One thing that the War of 1812 helped the United States feel was pride. Just knowing that not only did they defeat Great Britain in the American Revolutionary War, but also during the War of 1812. And so a lot of Americans who were maybe unsure between the time of the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812, they're now feeling confident in their country and proud to be Americans. And along with this kind of came this sense from the government to expand the borders. And so the Adams-Onis Treaty, and I'm going to show a picture of the land, but what happened was Florida, there was a West Florida and an East Florida, and Spain originally had this land, and then Great Britain came and took it, and then after the Revolutionary War, Spain was able to get it back. And so during the Adams-Onis Treaty, as you can see on this picture, to cede land where it's the diagonal lines, that means to give up. And so Spain gave up their land in Florida. The United States gave up a lot of land in Texas, the land that was west of the Sabine River. And then Oregon country was given up as well. Spain gave up that part. And so this is another way that the United States continued to expand their borders. All right, another thing that happened was the Monroe Doctrine. And so James Monroe, he was president at the time, he didn't want the European powers such as Great Britain and Spain and France trying to come back into the Western Hemisphere. And so they created this Monroe Doctrine to pretty much say, like, you need to stay in the Eastern Hemisphere, and it worked for the most part. And so just interesting, here's a political cartoon. And Great Britain was kind of the one behind this, but the United States is the one who wrote it. So that's why we can see Great Britain standing behind the president. And you can see Napoleon, the French leader, and other European leaders looking sad and defeated